Good afternoon everybody, welcome back to Cilinix Crypto and welcome to this new video in which we'll talk about Pocket Network. Special video. I don't often talk about projects specifically, I think maybe 1-2 videos per week at most, but in this case wanted to do a full review on Pocket Network since there's some massive news coming out. They are about to launch here in Q2, most likely in May 2025, their Shannon Upgrades, which is not only a great upgrade for the project itself, but it also introduces some major changes to the tokenomics, which I think in general already being a better idea, but can also have great effects for the price of Pocket, of Pocket Network, which have their own token, POKT, which is listed on some major exchanges as well, such as Bybit, Bybit, Gate.io, and therefore in general I think you need to know about this as well. We've already recently seen a surge in price, but I think that can continue into 2025, so that's what we'll talk about. Pocket Network itself has been around for a very long time. We'll talk in a moment about what Pocket Network is. I'll keep it simple, which is not really something you can do because Pocket Network is an infrastructure project and therefore incredibly important, but also quite difficult to understand. So I'll try to explain it as best as I can in simple terms without diminishing what type of project and the value they create. In general. So we'll start off with that, then we'll talk about the Shannon upgrades, we'll talk about the tokenomics changes that come with that, and then at the end we'll do a bit of a summary, we'll talk about the price, we'll take a look at the chart as well, and then we'll end the video. But that's what we're going to be doing, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so first of all, one of the most important things obviously that you need to know is that, well, what is Pocket Network actually? Alright, I think some of you have already known about the project, but if you haven't, on the screen you can see in their documents what it is described as. I would definitely recommend you to check out their documents, and I will leave them down in the description as well. But the way I like to talk about this, or at least what I think is a better way to explain it, is to explain it in my own terms. That's always the best way to gauge whether you can actually understand it or not. And I think that's also best for you. But Pocket Network essentially is a decentralized network that helps connect blockchain applications, decentralized applications. Let's say, for example, a wallet. It's an easy example, but still. But they help them connect to data they need to actually function. All right, so that data very often in crypto is on blockchains. And what Pocket Network does is it allows those decentralized applications to connect with the data sources, aka blockchains, not always, but very often, through RPCs, right? And a lot of these RPCs are centralized in crypto, and Pocket Network is decentralized, all right? So therefore, in complete alignment with the ethos of crypto, and that's it's a bit of a difficult thing because decentralized partners are huge, right? So they have economies of scale, and they're very difficult to beat in price. But Pocket Network is doing that, right? So they're this decentralized network that allows these decentralized applications to get data, all sorts of data from all sorts of places, through node operators that work with Pocket Network. They get the data, they send the data to all these decentralized applications or whoever needs the data, and then those node operators get rewarded. And with those rewards, that's also what created a lot of the inflation, but we'll talk about that later because they have, for a very large amount, eliminated that. But that is essentially what Pocket Network is, and what's coming in May or June or very soon is the Shannon upgrade. All right, so let's talk about what the Shannon upgrade actually is. So the Shannon upgrade, in their own words, is basically turning Pocket Network itself from a leading deep in with full supply side decentralization into an empowered community, into the first true sharing economy for any open data source. All right, so there's three main parts that are changing. First of all, there's improved scalability. They're removing the remaining limitations of the scalability with the Shannon upgrade from the initial Morse protocol that they had, which was the core infrastructure of this project. They'll include new use cases, or at least new use cases are introduced since the tokenomics are improved. And the monetization for data sources is improved as well, right? So that in general creates more incentivization for these data sources to come to Pocket Network, and more data sources mean more use cases in general. And then also permissionless gateways, which we'll talk about in a moment, because one of the main things that comes together with the Shannon upgrade is path. All right, so you basically have Pocket Network Like I said, that's this decentralized network of information, and then these node operators that send this information through all the different people that want this information, that want this data. But now, built by Growth, they're also introducing Path, and that is an essential part of the Shannon Upgrades. And what Path basically allows is that when we're talking about the demand side, so all the parties that want this decentralized data through the decentralized network, Pocket network, can get that through Path, and that's completely permissionless, and therefore that's a major development, an amazing technological development as well, and that will absolutely help Pocket network in all the other things we've said before, with new use cases, improved scalability, and therefore also, which is something that's very underrated in crypto, but very important, business growth, right? How often is Pocket Network actually being used? And when we talk about the tokenomics in a moment, you'll realize how important that is. So like I said, the tokenomics are one of the most interesting parts about the Shannon Upgrades, in my opinion, as a trader and a buyer of cryptocurrencies, right? Because how it worked how it worked before with Pocket Network. And I'll try to go over this relatively quickly, all right, so that we actually have some good time to talk about the chart as well. But basically how it worked is that applications staked POCT, POKT, the main token. And then when they wanted to use these services, when they wanted to work together with the node operators, what happened is that, they staked the tokens and they paid for the services. But the node operators and the validators, they earned POKT tokens, and those were newly minted, all right, which means that you get a massive inflation. And outside of that, the other tokenomics model was slightly outdated. But with Shannon, what's going to happen is something much different. Now, a couple of things. First of all, they're creating a DAO, all right, which I personally like a lot. That's decentralized governance, of course. And they will control the minting and the rebates, all right. So basically, what these node operators will get in payment. Or at least if they get extra payments, all right? Because what happens on the other side is that what's happening is that these applications that first of all had to pay, and then new Pocket was minted. What happens right now is that they stake this Pocket essentially again, and then it gets burned if they actually use the services. And then an equal amount gets minted, and that goes to the node operator, so they still get paid. But that's much less inflation, all right? And then it's dependent on the decentralized autonomous organization if there's still inflation, first of all, and how much this will be. But that will be much less. And with more usage in the future, which will most likely happen with all the extra activity on decentralized networks, it can even become deflationary, and that's a major positive change for the tokenomics. Tokenomics and the severe inflation was one of the reasons why we've seen price action like this before, for example, although there's been some amazing price action in the past as well in 2024, as you can see. But so far on the charts, like I said, which I also briefly wanted to talk about, on the chart what we've seen is that we've had a small deviation right here at the beginning of April. Since then, massive volume has come in, also with the announcement of this news, which some whales have already stepped in. But what that means right now is that we formed a consolidation slightly higher after a bullish reclaim, right? So right now, Pocket is consolidating, let's say, between 1.6 cents as resistance, and then to the downside at 1.2 and 1.1 cents. And in general, with the current market structure in combination with these upgrades and this news that is coming, I think Pocket is one of the most interesting cryptos when we're talking about bullish continuation for this structure that we have already started to make more bullish at the end of April for a potential move like this, for example, into next targets. So in general, a very interesting project providing real utility, and very recently, like I said, or very soon, also coming with a major upgrade, which will make everything about the network better. Not only the tokenomics, but also the business cases, scalability, and just in general how it works, which was perhaps a little bit outdated, but now fully upgraded and fully functional. So like I said before, I'll leave the links to Pocket down in the description so you can actually check it out for yourself. I would definitely recommend you to also follow their X and all the team members, so I'll leave some links to that down in the description as well. But that's it for now, all right? Check it out. I'll keep you updated on Pocket as well. But for now, thank you for watching. Take care and bye.